the pre-party. God, that hurts my voice. I should stop doing that. I'm your boy J-Cal, and this is the pre-party. Normally, we go live right before the NWA POWERRR. However, today, there is no NWA Power. Today, we got Circle Squared. So, this is going to be a little bit of a deviation from the norm for us. And, well, we're going to see how this goes. We're going to talk NWA like always. We're going to have a good time. And we're going to be here for the duration. So, I hope you guys have got yourself a pop here and ready to talk some NWA. So first things first, this is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. The reason why I do this, guys, is because I'm trying to drive traffic to the website. Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And again, I'm your host, J-Cal. You can follow us on all social medias at TheAllianceBlog. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Tumblr. And if you're checking us out right now, you're either watching on Twitch on one channel or you're watching on YouTube on the other. So here we are talking NWA Wrestling. And guys, I'm so happy you're here. First things first. Well, I've said that 3 times now. I do want to thank our recent subscribers. Roscoe, you're a sweetheart. Thank you for saying that. I want to thank our recent subscribers to the channel, and that would be John Savage, Scott Ward, Harry Maldonado, Alex Aurora, Ricardo Avery, John Pitt, and John Estelle. Guys, the whole reason why we do this show is to have fun, but it's certainly cool and fun to see more and more people subscribing to the channel, and I greatly appreciate it when you guys do subscribe to the channel. So thank you so much. If you like what you're seeing, put a thumbs up. If you like what you're seeing, share it with your NWA friends and family. But ultimately, if you like what you're seeing, keep watching the podcast. That's why I do it. If you guys aren't watching, I'm going to stop doing it. So with that out of the way, something that's been bothering me, and if some of you guys are on the same message boards that I'm on, you're seeing the same chats about the NWA, there are some misconceptions about who has been a former NWA World Champion, and I just want to get it out there. You guys, Kurt Angle was never an NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Now this... Alright, so apparently you guys didn't hear almost anything I just said. To Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, back in 2002. That's why Dan Severn was stripped of the title. The first pay-per-view featured a battle royal, which eventually ended up with Ken Shamrock taking on The Wall to become the first NWA TNA World Champion. Now, that was pretty cool, and we had a couple of good years there where we had guys like AJ Styles winning the title, Ron Killings. Then we get Christian Cage to win the championship. This is where things change a little bit, because after 5 years, Bob Trowbridge on May 13th, 2007, ended the relationship, the business relationship with the NWA and TNA Wrestling. Essentially, they were having difficulty booking the world champion for NWA shows. And now you got to remember, at the time, David Marquez was running arena events in 2006 and 2007, and they couldn't get the world's champion on these cards. Now, they did book Jeff Jarrett once, and they did book Christian Cage once, but it didn't happen very often. And when you have your shows that are like headlining in Las Vegas, and you're having to use stars from Wrestling Society X to sell the show, you're missing out on some things. So long story short, Robert Trowbridge, based on the majorities of the interest for the National Wrestling Alliance Board of Directors, ended the relationship with Impact. And at that moment, they stripped the titles from Christian Cage and Team 3D. That was it. It was over. That's the end. So Kurt Angle did not wrestle Christian Cage for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He wrestled for the TNA Heavyweight title. I know it looked like the 10 pounds of gold. It still said National Wrestling Alliance on it. It is not the NWA title. It was just a placeholder. Anyone who can't get that through their skulls, guys, it's 2020. You all have the same opportunity to Google this stuff and look it up. No, Kurt Angle was never NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. To further accentuate that point, I want to point out that the last time Christian Cage did defend the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, well, that was in April when he defended the title against Samoa Joe in Connecticut for a promotion called NEW. So that wasn't even an NWA promotion, but that was the last time he defended the NWA Championship. And then the last time Christian Cage defended the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship for an NWA promotion, you have to look at Liberty States. A year before, on Christian Cage's first title run, he defended the title against Jay Lethal. Now, for you guys that don't know, Liberty States Wrestling was a partnership with Ricky Otasu, Ricky O, and David Marquez. So that's one of the few times that they actually were able to book a TNA wrestler who was the NWA World Champion for these shows. So it was kind of imperative to take the belts off guys that they couldn't control, couldn't book. And that was the end of the relationship. May 13th, Sunday, 2007, before the TNA pay-per-view. So Kurt Angle was never NWA World Champion. Hope everyone's all caught up now. Sorry about the technical snafus early on. It looks like we're all up and running. So now I'm going to take a second, and I'm going to read some of your comments, because that's one of my favorite parts of the show. Roscoe calls me an NWA guru. Thank you, Roscoe. I appreciate the kind words. Kikuchi says the NWA is an awesome rap group. It sure is. See, I grew up on the NWA, both the wrestling and the rap group. So, you want me to start spitting some Eazy-E, just let me know. Alex says, good afternoon. Alex, it is a pleasure, sir. I did mention you as one of our new subscribers, but I don't know if that made the air or not. He tries to share the channel as much as he can. Alex, I appreciate that, sir. Roscoe, I'm actually quite excited for Circle Squared. Roscoe, you should be, because tonight I think is going to be fun. It's going to be a little special. Roscoe said he saw the Kurt Angle debate, and you can see why people are confused. I get why people are confused on the issue, but it's just really, it's black or white. And I hear people say, well, in my opinion, he was a world champion. He was an NWA world champion. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're also entitled to being wrong, and you just flat out are. Alex says, Kurt Angle rant coming up. I hope I delivered. Kikuchi said Frozen. Frozen? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, the channel was frozen. Yeah, sorry guys, can't help that. Kikuchi says he blames a question mark. Of course he does. No, it wasn't just you, Jason. The whole thing froze up. I still have a poor connection, so it's still probably freezing up. I'm also live streaming this with Twitch, so if you guys have a Twitch channel and prefer to see a show, the channel not glitching up so much, you might want to check that out. Alex says El Gordito. I don't know if he's referring to me or somebody else, but I'll take it. Lamb says, oops, late. Hey, no, you're here, man. You didn't miss much. The conspiracy by Angle. Yeah, he's got me in an angle lock in the back somewhere. I've seen the Hawks. They can definitely work. Haven't seen them talk. Yeah, I haven't either. I might just put this out here. What are your thoughts on Tyson Dean form? And I was getting to that. Roscoe, you're reading my mind. You're promoting my show for me. I am getting to that. I have the information right here. First and foremost, let's talk about Circle Squared. Okay? I keep saying first and foremost, but it hasn't really been first or foremost, so I think maybe I'm not using that word correctly. Let's get to that. Circle Squared, I think, is a very unique opportunity for a lot of wrestlers, and I wish more wrestlers would have engaged this. There's a lot of guys out in Southern California who I think would be a perfect fit for the NWA, and maybe I'll do a show about that later, talking about who I would like to see from SoCal in the NWA, because there is a list of about 10 guys I think would fit right in. But let's talk about the Circle Square. Some of the guys that are listed actually have quite extensive backgrounds with the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I get it, because this is the Billy Corgan era of the NWA. This is the Lightning One era of the NWA. So, of course, guys, I get it. We're not going to go through the trails of the yesteryear. We're not going to go through Bruce Tharp's timeline. We're not going to go through Robert Trobich's timeline. We're not going to talk about Howard Brody or Ernie Todd. If you guys know Ernie Todd, you've been around for a while. But I am. I know the NWA won't, but I will. So let's first talk about Luke Hawx. You guys have seen the video recently that went viral of his son jumping off of a mall second story into the ring on his opponents. That's the same Luke Hawx. This duo has been a tag team for some time, father-son duo, which I think is pretty cool. There's not a lot of first and second generation tag teams out there today. You know, Ricky Morton's son is actually back in the ring, so maybe that'll happen with a new Rock and Roll Express. But Luke Hawx has been around for many, many years. You guys might remember him from the NWA Anarchy days, NWA Wildside, if you're actually checking that out too, because, he was Altar Boy Luke. You guys remember that? King of the Deathmatch. He actually won the tournament one year for XPW, which is also out here in Southern California. He worked with MTV's Wrestling Society X, so you've seen him on TV quite a bit, actually. If you digest a lot of wrestling content, he is a guy that you've seen quite a bit. He's done dark matches or opening matches for SmackDown, for Raw, for TNA. But like I said, he was Altar Boy Luke. He was always in the middle of the junior heavyweight title or the TV title for Anarchy and Wildside. He actually even appeared on David Marquez's arena shows, the NWA Pro Wrestling Summit. He took on Sean Waltman in Kissimmee, Florida. How about that for some extended NWA history? And he's been very active in NWA promotions, going back to about 2008. So his history with the NWA has been pretty widely known. Wildcat, for a short time, the promotion that Luke Hawx owns, was actually affiliated with the National Wrestling Alliance. And it still has a very good working relationship with Main Event, who also was a member of the NWA for quite some time. Let me see what comments you guys are saying. Let's see. I just might put it out. Okay, we talked about that. NWA blasted Tyson Dean recently for being on a card with an anti-gay flag match. They didn't book any of these guys on Twitter, so I was pleasantly surprised to see him booked. I don't think I caught that. Lamb says, Orozco says, yeah, I saw Kerry Morton at the innovative Smoky Mountain Cup show. Yeah, that's coming up soon. Wrestling Society X, good old childhood days. Lamb, you say good old childhood days, and I was a grown ass man already. Great lineup: Jax Dane, Facade, Chase Owens, Kerry Morton. I mean, I like a lot of those guys on that list, so I think that'll be a good show, and we'll talk about the Smoky Mountain Cup. Wow, Wrestling Society X reference. I used to be embarrassed to tell people I watched it, but I loved it. Look, man, I had so many friends working there. The wrestling, it was a little campy. I still consider Dave Marquez a good friend, Kevin Kleinrock. They were kind of behind the show. I was there when they filmed the pilot for that. Scorpio Sky, someone I also consider a friend, worked there. There's a lot of good SoCal influence, and I think, when MTV decided to cancel it, I really wish that Impact was in a better position, because at that time they had so many great tag teams. That 70s team with Joey Ryan and Disco Machine, Team Dragon Gate. Who else was there? There was quite a few good tag teams at the time. I can't remember everyone right now. I really thought they would have been. It would have been a fun time for wrestling had they figured out a way to merge Wrestling Society X with Impact Wrestling, but alas, that never happened. Arroyo, I'm definitely excited about the show tonight. Yeah, I think I am too. I don't understand why you want to kind of kill some of the momentum that NWA Power had by taking the week off, but I also get it because the next pay-per-view isn't until April, so they have to find a way to stretch out, literally 2 days worth of TV tapings into like 3 months of TV. So I get why they're doing it. I just wish they could have avoided it, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to avoid it. Alex says, okay, yeah, okay, you're right. I remember that. El Gordito And you can kind of, knowing Dave as long as I have, he's lost a lot of weight. He actually looks really good. So when she said that, you could kind of see the little ego a little bit just drop down just a tad. Okay, and then first time I saw Joey Ryan was on WSX. Hey Graham, welcome to the party, pal. It's the pre-party. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Go back and watch the beginning where I just totally lamb blast. I just roasted anyone who is a fan of Kurt Angle being NWA World Champion. Didn't happen. But thank you for joining the show. Thank you for checking it out. I really do appreciate that. We're now talking about Circled Squared. So let me get to the next talent, who is Tyson Dean. Tyson Dean. Now, again, if you just started watching NWA Power, you have no idea who Tyson Dean is. You've never seen him before. So if you're saying, well, who's Tyson Dean? Hey, you're not the only person saying that, guys. But Tyson Dean is a former NWA North American champion. Now, I know the title's defunct or frozen or however you want to declare it, but it's not being currently used on the show. I'm going to just bring this down a little bit. That way you can see my hands when I move them. I don't know what to do with my hands. Now, he lost the title to Mustang Mike, who will never appear on NWA Power. But the person he beat for that NWA North American champion, well, this gentleman right here, Tim Storm. And Tyson Dean has been mostly affiliated with the NWA in the Peach State in Georgia. Like I said, he defeated Tim Storm for that title back in 2016 before losing it to Mustang Mike. He was also the NWA Georgia Heavyweight Champion, which is like the affiliate of, not the affiliate, but that was kind of like equivalent to being the NWA Anarchy Champion. You got to remember when the NWA Board of Directors ended up giving its assets to Bruce Tharpe to settle the lawsuit. There was a new NWA in Georgia. Now, previously, it had been Wildside and Anarchy going back to like 2000, maybe even 1999, up until about 2013. So you got new promoters, new wrestlers, but again, Tyson Dean had been around for a while in the Peach State, and he had some acclaim within the NWA promotions in that area. So, again, someone else who's been affiliated with the National Wrestling Alliance, someone else who's got history with the brand, who up until recently hasn't been acknowledged on NWA Power. This could be the spot where he actually gets an opportunity. He and his partner Jeffrey Lewis Neal, they might have an opportunity to become regular roster members after this. So we'll see what's happening. Oh yeah, Tim Storm. Happy birthday to Mr. Tim Storm. I believe he turned 39 years old. I mean, I know he's not 39, but hell, I'm 41, and he looks a hell of a lot better than I ever will. So let me read some of your comments. Will you be reviewing the Circle Squared? You know what? Yeah, we will. We're going to at least review the first episode. My partners, Kevin Douglas, the modern-day hero, the former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and DKM, the lover of all championship gold. We will be talking about Circle Squared. I think we'll be recording our episode tomorrow. I don't know that we're going to review every show just because it's going to be difficult. It's hard to get one episode up every week, and it's hard to get we're in 3 different time zones, Florida, Texas, and California, to get that show going every week. It's just it's pretty difficult, so we probably won't review it every week, but we'll try to get up there as often as we can. Next up is a drink of water for me because I've been talking a lot. So next up we have Jeff Neal. I'm not even sure what it really is. But here's another guy, very much affiliated with the National Wrestling Alliance. And in fact, each one of these guys are known for competing for NWA promotions in Georgia. So it's kind of fitting that they're in NWA Power, which is emanating from the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. So, Lamb says the United States has way too many time zones for one country. You're right, Lamb, but you also have to look. If you put our map on top of Europe, we stretch out pretty far, buddy. It's, Texas itself is just huge. So, anyways. So getting with NWA Anarchy and talking about Jeff Lewis. Now, he was a member of the NWA Elite. Long before the All Elite Wrestling, long before the Young Bucks were calling themselves the Elite. The NWA Elite was a faction in NWA Anarchy, caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. And Jeff Lewis was a member of that. Now, he was the Anarchy TV champion around 2006. He also won the heavyweight championship in the Anarchy heavyweight title. So, again, ties, Wild Side Anarchy. We're just going to call it Anarchy to make it easy. Jeff Lewis was there. Jeff Lewis also wrestled in the famed NWA in Charlotte. Now, that show, if you guys get a chance, look up NWA in Charlotte. Great production values, great cast of characters. This was a couple of guys who wanted to try to make the NWA more of an East Coast thing than it was, because at that time it was mostly a West Coast thing with, I don't want to say mostly, but that's where the TV was emanating from, was Los Angeles Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. These guys were trying to do their own thing in North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is the home of the NWA. At least it's the home of the Horsemen. And there's a lot of ties to that. And they did everything they could to play off that. I mean, they were using Reed Flair. They were using Richie Steamboat. They were using guys like Chance Prophet. They were booking Adam Pearce. They were booking Phil Shatter. And again, guys from NWA Anarchy like Chemo. And of course, Jeff Lewis was one of these guys. Now, Jeff Lewis had won the Mid-Atlantic Heritage Championship for NWA in Charlotte. Now, that promotion wasn't very long-lived, but it just goes to show you that Lewis had been around. He'd been working for the NWA. He also had dark matches for the TNA NWA era, and he kind of was mostly showcased as a tag team wrestler when he was there. And then, of course, the NWA Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, the last director of the National Wrestling Alliance was Slim Bacon. Slim is the guy that had the promotion, the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. They're the guys that took their show to China, to Korea. In fact, featured AJ Styles challenging Jeff Jarrett for the NWA World Championship in Korea. So that promotion was also in that era of the NWA. And I think it's pretty cool that we get all this history with these, at least the first night of Circle Squared. We're going to feature a lot of guys who've been around the NWA for quite some time. Now, I know they're new to NWA Power fans. Hell, they might be new to you. But I think it should be celebrated that their history with the NWA is there. Now, Joe Galley is probably not going to talk about this, and Sean Mooney probably won't bring this up. But your good old pal J Cal, a fan of the NWA for the about 13 years, has been covering the wrestling of the National Wrestling Alliance. I gotta just point it out, man. These guys are NWA. They've been NWA, and it's good to see a return to the NWA. So let's see what your comments are. Willie Bowen says, whatever happened to ODB? Willie, the only thing that I can think is that it was just a one-off deal where she came in to work the pay-per-view and to work those matches, and then that was it. The NWA will be kind of an open door policy where they're going to bring talents in when they're available, and people will leave when they're not being used. I heard from somebody that they talked to Colt Cabana, and it doesn't seem like he'll be back in the NWA. It already seems like Mr. Anderson is done with the NWA, which is fine. I mean, again, I love Colt Cabana. Boom, boom. And it was cool to see him as part of the NWA. But if they have nothing for him, it's better for him to go do something else and maybe come back at another time when they do have something for him. More comments. It's 11:33 p.m. in Germany. Time difference is a pain in the ass. Yeah, man. I mean, if we were all flat Earth, right, we could just all have the same time and it wouldn't be a big deal. Mr. Anderson is wrestling in an upcoming TNA pay-per-view, and Colt Cabana is wrestling the upcoming New Japan shows, which I think that's fine. You know, that's fine. Colt Cabana is. We talk about this week after week. I really think New Japan Pro Wrestling would benefit from working with the NWA, and a talent like Colt Cabana could do both. Again, the commitments that you need to have work the NWA is literally like 2 days a month, if that. Let's see. Our friend DKM. Hey, DKM. I drive 9 hours in Texas. Guess where you are? Still in Texas. Yeah. No, that's why nobody likes to drive in Texas, DKM. It's cool that I didn't know much about Jeff Neal Lewis. Jeff Lewis Neal. I keep mixing it up. I actually had a buddy named Neal Lewis, so every time I hear his name, I think of him, and I get a little bit confused. Do all of those NWA promotions still exist after Billy Corgan purchased the NWA? Some of them. Not all of them. One example is Innovative Pro Wrestling, the old NWA Smoky Mountain. They're still around. Texoma's still around. There's quite a few promotions still around. A lot of promotions did shut the doors. They're gone. Maybe we'll do a show about that one of these days and just kind of talk about those old promotions, old territories. Colt had some awesome matches against Nick Aldis. Yeah, I mean, I was there in China. I was there to see that match live, and that was pretty cool. As someone who's watched Colt Cabana win the World's Heavyweight Championship twice, I was kind of thinking that maybe he'd win it for a third time in China. This was long before I knew what the long-term plans were with the NWA, and I'm satisfied with that. I think they changed your name like NWA Smoky Mountain. Yeah, we talked about that. Colt Cabana had just talked about that. Alex is taking notes. Hey man, I'm glad you're taking notes, dude. Visit alliance-wrestling.com for all your news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And again, we're trying to put more content up here on YouTube. You guys have been seeing me do this weekly show now since pretty much the beginning of NWA Power. The pre-party's fun. The recaps are fun. I'm going to try to start doing some more off-brand content. I mean, still talking about the NWA, but not talking specifically about the show, or maybe just focusing on a particular wrestler. We'll see how that goes. Willie says, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, California is still an NWA affiliate. Yes and no, Willie. Yes, they are associated with the NWA by virtue of booking many of the NWA champions and occasionally booking some of the NWA talent. And of course, David Marquez serves a dual role for both programs. He's mostly off air for Hollywood, except for the new shows that they do in cities like Houston or San Francisco. But for the most part, he's off the camera and really is the MC of NWA Power. He really doesn't play that role in Hollywood, and he's more hands-off. One of the things of beauty used to be watching David Marquez produce the show live. It was a thing of beauty, being able to call the cameras and call the shots before the shots actually happen. It was really, really fun and interesting, but he doesn't even do that anymore. I forget the gentleman's name that does that, but he has another guy that does that who also, Billy Trask. Billy does it for the NWA as well. Lamb says yes. I mean, yes and no, Lamb, right? Roscoe says he wishes the NWA would have more affiliates. In my eyes, and, it's kind of funny because I just said, well, you can't argue facts about Kurt Angle being world champion, but one of the things you can argue is who's associated with the NWA, and I believe, in my opinion, anytime the World's Heavyweight Championship is being defended on a show, at that point it's sanctioned. That match is sanctioned by the NWA. The NWA is the oldest, longest sanctioning body of professional wrestling in the history of wrestling. So when that NWA World Champion used to come out to Los Angeles at Jim Jeffries' Red Barn and take on Enrique Torres in 1947. That was a big deal, guys. That promotion for that night was sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. When Adam Pearce would take the title and wrestle in Germany for WXW and face Walter, of all guys, for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, in my opinion, for that night, WXW is sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. So when Nick Aldis is going to Ring of Honor and having a title defense in Ring of Honor, they're associated, they're affiliated, they're sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance. Same thing when they go to Hollywood, same thing when they go to Tried and True Pro Wrestling, same thing when they go to the wrestling convention, WrestleCade or whatever it is. And I'm going to sneeze here. So, in that sense, they are associated with the NWA. I just recently saw, and I'm sure a lot of you guys did on Twitter, Nick Aldis is kind of saying, where do you want to see me defend the title next? That's kind of like an open advertisement to all the promoters out there. Hey, if you like Nick Aldis, bring him in. And if the fans are, hey, bring him out to LA. Hey, bring him out to Louisiana. Hey, bring him out to Perth, Australia. You know, that's what's going to happen. Okay. Alex, CMLL. Okay. EMLL was the oldest wrestling promotion, and you can still say CMLL is the oldest wrestling promotion, and that's okay. I said oldest wrestling sanctioning body. Loophole. David Marquez does interviewing, announcing now too on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood due to Kelly Campanelli's departure to NXT, but maybe the next TV tapings there'll be a new interview announcer. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'll be the first one to admit I don't watch as much Hollywood as I used to, but the roles. There's been so much good talent coming out of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood to get to that next step, that next level. So it doesn't surprise me. As always, Dave, my window is open if you would like to hire me as your, broadcast journalist. I'm up for it. Let's see. WrestleCon, WrestleCade. Way too many wrestling names. Yeah, no kidding. Roscoe says, innovative SWE VIP Wrestling. I'm not too familiar with SWE or VIP Wrestling. I know that in the past... Innovative has booked a lot of NWA champions from Adam Pearce, Jack Staines, Rob Conway. I know that they'd probably be open to working with the NWA again. I just don't know if the NWA would be opening to working with them again. I know that match with Devin Driscoll and Nick Aldis kind of went cattywampus, and it was a little odd. I don't know if any bridges were actually burned, but it just was weird. And I'd rather have a straight-up match than all the shenanigans that went on with that. And I don't know if that was Tony's idea, if that was Driscoll's idea, but I'm certain it wasn't Nick Aldis' idea. You would love to see me as an on-air role for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood? Okay, so it never happened. It never happened. And when I asked Dave Marquez about this, he always gives me that old... I don't know what you're talking about, Jay, but years and years ago, and we're talking when it was still the New Japan Wrestling USA shows at the Inoki Dojo in Santa Monica, which was a good 2 hours away from where I lived because LA traffic. But Marquez had called me and said, hey, man, I think I have a spot for you. And I looked, a spot for me? Well, I don't wrestle. What do you mean a spot for me? And he had some sort of idea for me to do something with them. And we never really elaborated on it because I just couldn't do it. I had a young child at the time. My oldest daughter, who's now 15, was just recently born. And I couldn't spend a lot of time away from home. I was already working 40 hours a week at the regular job. So I couldn't commit to anything. And I always regret that because I think I was supposed to be like a recap person. Maybe I don't think I had much. I wouldn't have been in an interview position. I think I would have been recapping shows. And if you go look on the old the VIP guide on YouTube, youtube.com/VIP guide, you could see some of those old recap shows that they had. And I think that's what Marquez was hoping for me, and I kind of wish I would have done it, and oh well, that's history. Just because I'm a huge fan, any thoughts on the NWA perhaps signing Lance Archer? I don't think it's going to happen. Signing him, probably not. Working with him, I hope so. See, and I'm always going to call him Lance Hoyt, another guy who has an extended history with the NWA. You know, whether it be when he was an NWA Tag Team Champion with Jimmy Rave in Impact Wrestling, or whether it was wrestling for the NWA Southwest Championship. I really did like Lance Hoyt, Lance Archer, and I think he would fit in to what they're doing right now. It's just a matter of does it make sense financially? Do they have a spot for him? I say a guy like Lance Archer, you find a spot for him. But no, I don't think it's going to happen just because it seems like they have their guys that they're wanting to work with right now. He doesn't seem to be one of those guys. They even did a 10 pounds of gold. Let me rephrase that. They didn't do the 10 pounds of gold on Lance Archer when he was challenging Aldis for the title a couple of years back. And to me, that was kind of a sign that maybe they weren't interested in working with him or showcasing him. Now, that could all change. I mean, hell, we had Scott Steiner in an NWA ring in 2020. I wouldn't be surprised if Lance Archer or Lance Hoyt showed up in 2020. I just wouldn't count on it. J. Cal is not a celebrity. He is not. Graham, you like my cadence? You're the first person to ever compliment my cadence. There's a lot of shows that have been backlogged. I haven't been able to upload yet to the podcast, and I haven't done a J. Cal's View in a while, but that's something I really would like to get back into the habit of doing. So stay tuned. If you enjoy these shows, all of these shows are eventually going to be put up on the podcast, the Alliance Guys podcast. If you're looking for that, we are on Spotify, but you're not going to be able to find it by typing it in. It just doesn't come up. You actually literally have to go to your phone and type it in, which just contradicts what I said, but whatever. Let's see. So Roscoe said, what happened with Devin Driscoll and all this? I don't know much about that. So what happened is basically they feigned a injury during the match, and it just was very weird. It didn't really feel like it made a lot of sense. This was a world title match. This was supposed to be a big deal, and it just felt very carny. And I love Tony Gibbons. I talk to him very infrequently now, but I used to talk to him all the time when he was with the NWA. And I still wish he had a more active role working with the NWA, but I think that was kind of a bad play. I think it just made everything look cheap. Very indie, very, to quote Dave Lagana, brother. So I don't think you're going to see that again, but they have always said they're open for business for anyone except for Impact Wrestling. So and Alex said, see, he didn't even know that. Is that about Lance Hoyt? That's probably what you meant. I think Lance Hoyt was NWA Tag Team Champion with Kid. You know what? I think you're right. Maybe you are right. Maybe it was Kid Cash. Maybe you're right. You're probably right. CageMatch.net. Go look it up. You can find that out. And Graham did some hand gestures. I hope I did justice to that. So anyways, guys, we're running out of times. It's 2:50 local time. I know that's 5:50 on East Coast. And Lamb, I guess that means it's 11:50 p.m. So we're going to call it a day. But again, I greatly appreciate you guys checking this out. I really do love the interaction. This is for the fans. Everything that I do here, I'm doing it for you guys as much as it is for me because I love talking NWA. I love building these relationships. You guys can follow me on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, which has been real fun. If you guys aren't on TikTok, get on TikTok. That's silly. It's fun. Instagram. Of course, you're watching on YouTube or Twitch. If I'm forgetting anything else, just search for @TheAllianceBlog, whichever social media you're on. We're not on MySpace, and we're not on FarmersMeat.com or any of that stuff. And that's going to wrap it up. So, guys, let's go watch Squared Circle. Let's hashtag Talk NWA. If you guys talk about it on Twitter, use the hashtag Talk NWA. Let's see if we can garner any interest. And who knows, maybe I might appear on a future episode of Circle Squared. But until then, hey guys, I appreciate it. Thank you. And we're going to see you guys at the matches. Have fun. See if I can turn this off on the right time. And good night now.